be great. And then you Are you moderating this one, Troy? Or should I just make?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. We don't do much moderation in these because we don't have to record anymore.
Yeah. Here, I'll make you host, and if you want to pass it over, or if you need to, so you should be host now.
Cool.
And then you can pass it if you need. Okay, let me go start.
All right, but I made you both co-host.
That's perfect.
Cool.
Is there anybody else? It's just you two, right?
Just us two. I may have other people joining in, but they won't probably have anything to. They probably won't jump in. Jen might. You never know. Hey, Cindy. Good to see you.
Hey there, good to see you. Oops.
Green
Closed
screen.
I didn't even put my green screen out because I've been having this weird problem with the green screen. Like, it thinks I'm the green screen or something. It's really weird. I've been having problems with it ever since the last update. So
It was actually a little post-it that I put over my corner of a post-it that I put
That's
over
funny.
My lens.
Troy, maybe that's because if you're feeling a little sick, you're green tinged.
Hey,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to put some sort of filter on there so like it kind of balances my color and all that.
yeah, I almost feel sick going into the week, but now it's almost over, so I'm feeling pretty good now.
Right? Like, that was just anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Well, another very well executed conference. So you got 2 under your belt now.
Yeah, it went pretty well. I think no, we didn't quite make it. So we'll see. We'll see how many actually join. I thought we were going to break 400 people signing up. We got kind of close last year. We're a little bit higher now, but not quite to 400.
I sent it to my whole org, hoping I'd get some people joining at the end.
So,
like, hey guys, come hang out with us.
for this particular session or all of the 3 days?
All of them. Like I sent it out yesterday and I was like, hey, here's the day 2 events. Here's the day 3. And I actually told most of my AVI-SPL folks, I'm like, don't come to mine. You hear from me all the time. Go see Death of AV. That's going to be a really good one. You can hear from me later.
Yeah, I almost go the other way, and I kind of prefer to do the manufacturer ones live because then I can I mean, you guys aren't a manufacturer, but this is our first time where we had non-manufacturer sponsors because we've got like software developers too. So that's just a different way that I need to talk about them and remember to do that. But it's the one time that we have to really kind of interact with you guys in a not one-on-one, but a direct kind of conversation, and that's maybe more valuable. I can listen to the other sessions, and my lack of interaction there, I think, has less impact on my job, my day-to-day job, than it does talking with my vendors and manufacturers and integrators. So
yeah, when I was we just sponsored up, and then marketing's like, oh yeah, you're doing this next week. I'm like, oh, and I was like, what do I talk about? Like, they don't need me to talk about products. We have other people bringing products. I'm like, what do I talk about? So I was like, grants and barbecue and tuna. And so I went grants and what we can do to help and who we are, all the good things. And supply chain, we're going to talk about that.
cool, yeah.
And Amelia, never chop liver, my friend. Never.
I know I didn't wear my fancy shirt like you guys. Sorry.
I know. I was telling John, I'm like, oh, way to coordinate, man. I could have worn my light blue.
I got my long sleeves downstairs if I need them.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to get more people here, you would have sent out AVI-SPL swag ahead of time.
I know, right?
Right? Yeah, right.
Like I said, I just found out about this a week ago. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that.
We got a happy hour.
I'm like, all right, cool.
We got a happy hour after this that we could, give people's names and addresses and mail them stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I won a bottle of whiskey yesterday, so
Oh,
I got myself a neat vest.
oh yeah, you did win the vest. That's right.
It's a neat vest, but it's a neat vest.
It's probably very neat.
What's fun about the neat vest
be.
is it's reversed. Like they gave me one last year, and the zipper's the wrong way from like where my Columbia vest are. So I'm like, have to.
It's girls. It's girls.
I was gonna
one.
say that means
It's supposed to be a ladies, but it is not. I thought the same thing.
See, I was hoping for that whiskey yesterday, but Troy edged me out on the trivia.
Yeah, I got
Was that
it.
the Epiphan? Did you get Epiphan whiskey?
Neat did it. They did
okay.
a history of video conferencing.
Yeah,
quiz.
it was really good.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
it was a
Yeah.
good quiz. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, that
I
might
was
be
up there
cool.
early, and then I missed 4 or 5 in a row there in the middle. But I came back strong in the end.
I got first place 2 or 3 questions through, but then I got bumped down. So
I had like 4 in a row I got wrong. I was like, dang it. Like I keep a couple of them I hit the wrong button because I was like,
Sure you did. The wrong.
well, I
That's
had it
tough.
on this screen and then I had everybody over here in the questions and then I would go over, I'm like, because I just rearranged my office like this weekend. So I'm not used to the setup entirely yet. So
that's why they did it during
Yeah.
happy hour. Like as you get further into the questions, your reflexes get a little bit impaired.
well, I can't even say that because I wasn't in happy hour yet. It was only 3 o'clock for me. So.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, for me it was after 5.
And then
Well,
I
Amelia,
answered questions before I saw like all of the above, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should have hit all of the above.
It's always all of the above. That's always the
Amelia, I just looked you up on LinkedIn because we hadn't met before.
Oh, okay.
And you've only
I
been
feel
with
like I
AVI?
met you on one of these like happy hours a long time ago, but
Oh,
sometimes
well,
I
it's
see
very,
people
very
on
happy
LinkedIn.
hours.
Sometimes I see people on LinkedIn and I'm like, have I actually met that person or do I just think I know them?
Well, we
Because
probably also met when you were at Immersive, I'm seeing.
yeah.
Oh, and you know what? All those places.
I know. I've been around. I was just telling people I had redder hair like 15 years ago when I first came in this industry. And so, you know,
I had more hair 15 years ago. Guys
Same.
say that, but me too. I am too.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Miss Haskins.
How are you guys today?
Good.
Good. I guess I'm not representing AVI-SPL because I don't have on my AVI-SPL shirt.
You didn't get the memo
got-
either. Apparently.
You got the background though.
The boys got it covered. All right, I got the background.
You got the
so
background. Then.
I'll take the A for effort.
I have my West Elm collection background.
Yes.
They have great backgrounds.
They do.
I thought about pulling one of mine up and I was like, that's just too much branding. I got the shirt already. I don't want to.
Never too much branding, John.
I know. I need
Damn,
something for like my door over here, Jen. We
Yeah.
need
I'm
to
not
work on
marketing
that.
or sales. I'm just a
Yeah.
DE. I just design things. I don't need to like do all
Designed
that.
AVI backgrounds.
There you
You know,
go.
in a previous life, I did a lot of Photoshop, but not lately.
My dog is my branding.
Yeah.
Nice.
Aw.
I just kicked mine out and they are not pleased with me right now.
Cooper's gonna be all upset with you.
He is. You'll hear him bounce off the door in a few minutes.
Well, when I'm hosting, she's out in my in the back of the SUV. But you know what? She's got people are like, "What? You put it in the car?" It's like, yeah. She's got like a really cozy bed back there, water. She's got the sun shining on her. She's happy.
Anything she wants, right?
Oh my gosh!
I want to come back as my dogs in my next life.
No kidding.
The rain's starting to come finally.
See, I told you, John. See,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
told you.
slowed down here. I just
You
shoved
sent
it up north a little
You
bit.
shoved it
Yeah.
north of Atlanta.
You know
And then
what's
it'll go
crazy?
east to Richard.
Remember yesterday when I was complaining that it was snowing?
Yeah.
Like I
Oh
woke up
my.
this morning, there was ice all over the roads. And then now it's like probably in the 50s and like beautiful. It sun's out and everything. It's like all so
Amelia, where do you live?
Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. We just get very, bipolar weather. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
won't tell you what it's like in Florida right now.
no, I'll be there next week. So I'll be happy to go
It will be
whatever it is
hot.
because it's not gonna be snowing.
No, but they were expecting like 90-degree weather, so be prepared.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's horrible.
it will
It's
be
too
hot.
early for that.
yes.
That's
it is.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
we had
nice, and
70
there's starting to
degrees.
be sweltering in Florida, and that's what that's going to be.
And we're hitting that now, yes. Right
I'm
now
in
it's
Boston.
nice though. It's probably about 84. Right about
Yeah, I
now.
thought I saw 80s were the highs, but
In Orlando or in
Yeah.
Tampa?
in Orlando.
There's one day that it's supposed to hit 80 or hit 90, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem actually is that, I find with Florida or like a lot of places in the summer is it's like 90 outside, but then the place is air conditioned inside so much that it's such a difference. Like here, we don't even really use our air conditioning because you don't really need it when it's so dry. So
We use a lot of AC here in Florida. Go from an
Yeah.
air conditioned car to an air conditioned house to only air conditioned buildings.
This is just like our lobby conversation of talking about the weather and maybe we should
know.
talk about barbecue. But we're past 4 o'clock now.
All right.
Should we give it a
John?
minute or so? What do you think, Troy? Is everybody pretty much moved around to where they're going to land for the moment? You're muted, Troy.
I don't know that to be sure because I can't see the other thing, but I think we're probably safe to get started, and people will probably filter in and out as they
Yeah.
have been.
All right, good deal. So I will share my screen. Da-da-da-da. All right. So my name is Kevin Schornhorst. For those of you who have not met me, I've met a lot of friendly faces on the call, so it's good to see those I've known throughout the years and those I've just met recently. When I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, because I was telling the group earlier, I didn't want to cover products specifically. I didn't want to cover, some of the blah, blah stuff that we'll have to do. I just wanted to kind of just talk about things I thought might help you guys or alternate things that could help. So I was like, how can we help? Like, I kind of think that's how my role at AVI-SPL has kind of grown in the last year and a half that I've been here. So, how can we help? So on the call today, we have myself. I'm the director of SLED, Business Development, which is a fancy way of saying anything state local education. I work with our account managers for them to truly understand the pedagogy, the scheduling, the pain points of higher education as it relates to AV. I find that when I was on the other side of the desk, I worked at a university for 7 years. And I found quite consistently that they didn't understand the true pain points of higher ed. So when this opportunity presented itself, I was just kind of thrilled to kind of speak on a larger stage and kind of, why recreate the wheel is one of the things I've always said. So yeah, I've been in AV for over 20 years. I was a K through 12 teacher. I ran an auditorium and a video productions program in K-12. I spent a dozen years in medical simulation and clinical skills, literally a whole line of rooms with doors, and all the medical people would go in and out all day long with VHS tapes recording everything. So aged myself just a little bit. And then, of course, I was at Georgia State for 7 years as the manager of learning environments. And I've brought along one of my good friends, John Cheatham. John, do the intro.
So I don't quite have the expansive resume of Kevin. My experience in higher ed, since 2000, I've been working in and out of different institutions. I did some time in the IT department in my undergrad. I went to do my master's program, and I did video production there. We had a chapel service, and I did all the video production for that. And then for the last nearly 12 years, I was at the University of North Georgia, previously known as North Georgia College and State University. I ended up at the end of that stint as the manager of AV engineering and operations. Started as a tech, so I worked my way up the ladder. And just last summer, came over to AVI-SPL as a design engineer. So doing the same thing I did at the university, but without the infrastructure management that I had as part of my role with the university. So I've been loving it. My favorite opportunities, my favorite jobs that I design for are higher ed. I wish I could just do higher ed all day, every day. That'd be fantastic. But I also do some other corporate and house of worship stuff.
Yep. Don't sell yourself short, John. So I love this picture here. This is Infocom last year. This is like weeks after John accepted the position as a design engineer. And again, he's been with the company less than a year, and he's already got Designer of the Year for Atlanta. He just got that award the other day. So John's a fantastic resource. I couldn't think of anybody better to kind of join me today. So, so as far as the
Thanks, buddy.
presentation goes, that's right. Checks in the mail, right? I will absolutely want you guys to interrupt me. I want you to ask questions. Feel free. Like, this is an open forum. I'm not going to read from the PowerPoint slides. It's more informational for you guys down the line. So just something to kind of look at and reference, because it's better looking than me. So here we go.
Yeah.
So
we're spotlighted,
quickly,
but don't look at us.
that's right. So who is AVI-SPL? So if you guys want to click on the links there at a later time, you can. But AVI-SPL is the largest AV integrator in the world. We have, let's see here, 44 US locations, 9 in Canada, and those locations are ones that I work with directly. So I work with all of those 44 and 9 offices. And then we have 6 international locations. AVI-SPL has been in business since 1979. We have about 4,000 employees amongst the organization, and we account for about $1.3 billion in spend every year. It continues to go up. We never go down, as my leadership likes to tell us. So it's always a bigger number every year. So we're excited to kind of see that kind of grow. The biggest thing I wanted to say about AVI-SPL is there's a perception we're the big guy, right? We're a big company, but we're also an organization that loves to give back. So I wanted to include a couple of these photos in the screen right here. Every time we do a get together, whether it's a higher education summit, which we're planning one for May of this year with all of our sellers, or if we're getting together to have a sales acceleration, kind of get together, which we're doing next week, we always do a give back. So the picture here is actually Patrick Dortch of Georgia State University, Mark Coxon, who a couple of you may know, and Brandon Brunhammer, who's what I like to call our experiential technology group expert. And these were 3 guitars that we actually built and gave to kids for Christmas last year. So we did a higher education roundtable. We brought them all to South Carolina, and we built these guitars. We did a give back thing. And that's the thing that I think gets glossed over, right? Everybody can do AV and everybody can sell the things and do the things, but one of the things that sets us apart is the give back. So with that, the bigger question is, who is AVI-SPL to higher education? So the biggest thing I'd like to say is we are trying to get more in touch with you, the experts, versus us dictating what you should be doing. This has happened over the last 5 years. I was a customer of AVI-SPL's and Whitlock back in the day for about 10 years. So coming here, I could see the transition of how they're trying to be more collaborative and less forcing it down your throats. So one thing that we started up that I and John were both a member of initially was this Customer Advisory Board of Higher Education. We meet with some of our customers that we do a lot of work with on a quarterly basis. We talk about topics that are affecting them. We're doing one in March, and we're going to table it on digital signage and kind of what I like to call the wild, wild west of digital signage, and how it's kind of a moving target. And that's kind of a new, moving target thing for universities. So these are some of our favorite customers we work with and we have very close ties with, and we're always looking to expand that. So shameless plug, if you're interested, let me know. And then the best thing that I'm most excited about is we're a proud sponsor of HETMA. Being able to be sponsors of the the scholarships and to just have the opportunity to be with you guys is completely a thrill for me and John. So I'm just so thrilled that you guys have opened this up to us to be working with you guys a little more closely. So don't read all this, but who are we? There's a few things I'd really like to focus on what AVI-SPL and the things that I think may most help you right now. High flex learning environments. I think that's probably the hardest thing that's being defined, because the high flex learning environment is something that's extremely different for every university. What do I need to see the foreign participant? I bought all this stuff with CARES. It may not be here yet. What does that look like? What do I need it to evolve into? So I think high flex is going through an identity crisis, and I think that answer is different for every institution. So this is something we can absolutely help with. We've installed hundreds of thousands, and we have hundreds of thousands in back stock ready to go as soon as we can get supply to install more of that kind of high flex learning environment. The other big thing that we're seeing right now is esports labs. Esports is huge. We've seen pictures over the last few days of USC's esports lab. We're doing another one with Bowie State University right now. The guy I talked about in the previous slide that had the guitar, Brandon, he's the vice chair of, I can't remember what organization, but he's very entrenched in what does esports look like, and how can it be more than just an esports tournament space? How can we get more bang for the buck out of that? So we have a lot of strategy and experience with working with esports. Our experiential technology group, we call it XTG, is doing a lot of virtual reality. This is one of my colleagues who is constantly showing what AR and VR can look like. I remember when I was in higher education about 9 years ago, we were talking about the meta of classrooms and what does that look like, and that it kind of comes and it kind of goes. It's definitely coming. You know, I mean, Facebook changes their name for a reason, right? It's Meta. So what is that going to look like in the future? We're on the forefront of it. We've got people who are dedicated exclusively to working with the AR and the VR technologies. So, you know, we're here to help you guys if we can kind of do that. And John, I'll let you kind of talk about it for a little bit, but, you know, we talked earlier, John, about, you know, being the easy button for higher education. I mean, you had some great insight when we talked about this yesterday. Like, what does the easy button look like from AVI-SPL to higher ed?
The easy button. Yeah. So I wanted to hit on this before I get into that. So you mentioned the VR stuff. We premiered this last year at InfoComm. We showed it off at ISE again. I wouldn't be surprised if it's at our booth at InfoComm this year again, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
So when it's been a long week. So Kevin, give me a clue what you're looking for with easy button.
Well, like what is it we can do to help? We talked about being a big company, and you were talking about how we can help them directly.
Now I know where you're going. Sorry. Yeah. So a couple of things that we could do. I mean, I came from a university, and so did Kevin, that did many of our own installs. I mean, my school is 95% in-house integration. So I didn't have too much of a need to bring in AVI-SPL or other integrators to do full-blown builds. Totally fine. We like to partner with universities like that as well. I mean, if your shop is too small to do the entire thing, you do the design. We provide labor for that. We just come in and we'll supplement, execute your design. Or, you know, on the other side, if you don't have as much skill in the design side, or you're trying to design something new that you're not sure about, like say, you have to flip from a long lead time manufacturer to something that you can get in the next month or two. We can help with what we're calling design engagements, where we just design a system for you. We give you line drawings, and you can use us to install them. You can install them yourself. You can use a different integrator. That's okay too. And we can just help you with the design side. We can also do both. We can do the whole thing from the beginning to the end, but we don't have to. So whatever your skill set is with your team at the university or college, you can leverage us for the part that you're not as strong in. And I see that Kevin has highlighted on here, on-site AV technicians. That's something we can do as well. If you have a hard time hiring full-time staff because something with, you know, CapEx versus OpEx, and you can't get the budget for getting the labor, we can actually provide boots on the ground to be your technicians for you. And they'll have all the certifications and trainings that you're looking for. We provide all that. And we can just provide on-site skilled labor with break fix work.
Somebody was talking about it in one of the sessions earlier about HR. We were talking about it this morning during the coffee, and I really want to hear some of those stories later. But when it comes to HR, like in higher ed, it seems like if you lose a programmer, right, it could take you 6 to 10 months to get that position refilled, and then you still have to train them up.
That's another 6 months.
We've been working pretty diligently with some of our contract vessels. So contracts are something that we have to do a lot of. We have national, state, and institution level contracts with universities throughout the country. But we're working pretty hard to get on-site AV technicians built into those contracts. So you can say, I want one of these 4 people, and you know exactly what that price is going to be for the sake of your, you know, whatever you may need it to be, whether it's an on-site AV technician, a design engineer, a programmer, whatever it may be. So it takes a lot of work to kind of build that, but that's another service we can add, and we're starting to inject those in some of our contracts.
And maybe you need that person only for, say, the month of August. Or maybe you need that person just over the summer, and that, you know, you need skilled labor to help you do, you know, a lift of 20 classrooms. You got your refresh cycle going on. You're gonna refresh these 20. You already got the gear in your house. You just need us to come and work alongside your people. But I know that, you know, 3rd week of August, if you're on the semester system, that's going to be time that you might need some hands. So we can do that too.
Yeah. You know, I'll say out just to jump in, you know, full disclosure, AVI-SPL is one of our preferred vendors. So, but the one thing we absolutely love is that fact, like the pre-negotiated ratings, the openness, and just like, if I got a project, there's no surprises. You know, that's absolutely what I love. And you know, honest, like we, well, you know, like John, Kevin, you come, you know, coming from schools, it's rare that you actually throw an entire thing, you know, soup to nuts to an integrator. There's some amount you do in house. There's some amount that, because it's your cookie cutter thing, you can do it in your sleep, right? So it's that supplemental side to know, hey, I just need a special programmer for this, or I need labor for this, or I need to do that, you know what I mean? And having that thrown and sitting there, I just look up the chart and go, here's how much it is, throw it out there, and there's no surprises to my bosses when I go, here's what it's got to be, here's what we're gonna do, and then close it out. So that's always been the huge thing.
Yeah, and collaborating on it too, right? Like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel on what you, hey, Joe, do you have the GUI for what you're trying to do? Yeah, here's my general GUI, so I can take some stuff off of the quote now, because I don't have to dedicate a John or a person like John to redesign a GUI interface. Why? You already have that. Give me the uncompiled files, give me the high-res images, so we don't have to recreate things. That kind of collaboration and scope discussion really helps us get to where you guys need to be in continuing shrinking budgets.
Yeah, we even do things like that. My former university, that they have a project, but it's a standard classroom. They give us the code, we load it on the processor. If they want to come to our shop, test it with us, they can. We have a fully staffed out what we call QCC, Quality Control Center. Basically, where we do shop builds and we test everything out before we deploy. So we test out the user's code if the user programs it, and you know, if we find any issues with it, we'll, depending on how we've negotiated ahead of time, we can work through that.
Yep. And if anybody ever wants to see our QCC, our rack builds, how we do things, we would love to have you at one of our 50+ offices around the country. There's somebody that's close to you, I guarantee it. And even if not, there may be somebody that's, you know, literally in your neighborhood that, like, I know Mark Coxon actually lives really close to Joe, as an example. So, you know, we're pretty wide and we're pretty, we're out there. So just whatever you need. And my part of the easy button is to say, we are a big company. I like to think of us as an aircraft carrier. It takes a lot to move the aircraft carrier, but you guys have a direct line of communication with myself and with John for us to be able to say, I need to get in touch with so-and-so, because I don't want to send a sales rep on you if I don't have to, right? I want to get you to the right kind of thing that you need. So with that, I'll say we do have dedicated team members focused directly on higher education. I'm one of them. We have a full team behind me. I'm just going to be the person that you may interact with first until we get you drilled down to like an Amelia, who works with our unified communication strategy. You know, she works a ton with the soft codecs and the hardwares around that. Like, that is her bread and butter. And I'm going to have a high level on it, but I'm going to send you to the expert on that. So when in doubt, reach out to myself and I'll get you in touch with the right person and avoid a lot of excess emails. So this is Infocom of last year. That's me right there in the little anthill people. And there's John. He was hanging out there next to me too. So you guys can zoom in on that later, but just kind of a fun little thing there. So that is who AVI-SPL is to higher ed. Any questions, comments, concerns, throw them at me, but I'm going to hand it over to John to talk about supply chain, how AVI-SPL has tackled the supply chain, what that looks like for us as a company, and some things that have changed our business model a little bit with alternative products.
Yeah. Yeah. So supply chain. So prior to coming to AVI, I was the university I was at was solely, well, we had converted to solely a restaurant shop, and control systems were great. They're fantastic. Learning some of the new alternatives that we have, it's not the only manufacturer. They're a great manufacturer. We partner with them all the time, but they're not the only one out there. So I've been learning a lot of the alternatives that exist out there. There are so many for video distribution that can be controlled by a simple IP control, serial controls. So I've been working with products like AV Pro Edge and Lightware and Aurora, IDK, all these different ones. They work really well, and some of them are direct connect like HD-based T-type. Some of them are AV over IP, 1 gig or 10 gig like SDVOE compliant. There's all these options out there. So I've been designing around some of those, and we have direct communications with all those manufacturers who can give us lead times and if there's hiccups. And one of the benefits of an organization like ours is we can look and see, oh, we've placed 3,000 orders for this, and our average amount that's taken to get them, we know what that is. So we know which ones are shipping more frequently or more readily than others. So that's one of the benefits. One of the ones from Crestron, since I talked about them earlier, that their DMPS light stuff, while it's not the same color gamut as the DM stuff and the NVX stuff, although some of the NVX is, it's more readily available.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that, and then control systems. A lot of these companies you wouldn't have thought of as control companies 5 years ago are really killing it with their control systems, like QSC, Biamp, companies like these that you're like, oh no, that's a DSP company. Not anymore. So they're dabbling in the control stuff. QSC, I would say they're more than dabbling. They have a full line of stuff. And then Biamp is getting into button controllers, touch panels. And some of these, you don't even like the QSys stuff, or QSC, sorry. QSC and QSys are kind of the same thing right now. But you don't even need a new processor if you already have a DSP. That is your processor. So things like this, where we can reuse some of the owner furnished gear, some of the stuff you already have. We're upgrading a room. We can't get certain parts. Oh, you have a QSC Core 110? Well, guess what? That's your new processor.
Yeah, and we can sometimes send that stuff back out for recertification, depending on what it is. So that's a case-by-case basis. But that is one way we can leverage what you have to grow a little bit more on supply chain. Because we are big, there are advantages of working with us. We are first in line to purchase gear. So we are the largest, purchaser of all the top 50 things that you guys use. Biamp, Crestron, QSC, like we buy more of it than anyone else, and we do get preferential treatment. So while it may still require you guys to get in line for purchasing, we have the buying power to buy. For example, Sennheiser, we currently have a deal with them, and we have Team Connects sitting in our Tampa warehouse where we will store extra gear that we purchase from them on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, whatever the arrangement may be. We've got fantastic teams that just work on procuring things for you guys. So,
and to be clear, they're not sitting there gathering dust. They're coming in, and then the next week or two, they're going out on a job, but more coming in, because we have a lot of them coming straight through. While we buy a lot of them, we also sell a lot of them.
Right.
So another thing I wanted to touch on, if we're having issues with control, this kind of also ties into some of what Amelia's role is. These Microsoft Teams rooms and Zoom rooms, they can control very basic things. Some of them, especially Zoom, with some of what they can do. So we may not even need a control system if you're doing, say, smaller conference rooms, huddle rooms, group activity breakout rooms. If they have, say, a Zoom room compute or an MTR compute, that right there can control your display in certain ways. So sometimes they can send a CEC command, or they're sending something over IP. So we've been getting very creative with the ways that we are doing control, because right now we need to be. It's
Yeah,
been a good stretching activity.
it is.
Can I jump
And-
in and say something too? You know, I think, I don't want you guys to sell yourself short, because I think it's not just about like having buying power and looking up all the places you've used the product, but you know, I also can see, because I a lot of times looking from the outside, but there's a lot of actually dialogue going on amongst our engineers internally, asking about what your experience has been with this and using this with something else. And you know, it's not just about like looking to see, hey, we've got it on 5 orders this month. These guys are actually really, and ladies are actually really engaged with each other. You know, they have entire channels devoted to different things. You know, like they mentioned, focus on the UCC piece of it, but there's channels on displays, there's channels on, you know, video over IP, there's channels on all kinds of stuff, and there's chatter in there literally on an hourly basis of stuff. So I don't want you guys to sell yourself short, John, because it's not really just about like looking to see what's on an order and how many
Yeah.
times we place orders with whoever or whatever, but like
Absolutely.
they're definitely, you know, putting in a lot of effort internally, you know, to really qualify these other alternatives and figure out like what is working and why and in what application, and really, you know, so great resource for that, you know, as well, because they really talk to each other. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Well,
So
no,
that-
and that ties in perfectly to what I was going to say. You know, we've had a whole discussion over AV over IP, right? You know, you cannot get NVX right now as an example. So what do you do? And I think it comes down to 2 major things that we need to be thinking about, and things that John and his team have really been working on. There's an email I'm staring at right now where we have R&D'd from our lead technology guy. His name is John Richards, and he literally has broken down, what does IDK look like for AV over IP? What does Aurora look like? What does Liberty, cables to go? And they have a full dialogue that I've saved that to my personal drive so I can reference it when I talk to higher education institutions. I used it the other day when I was talking to North Dakota State. So there
we
are
use
lots of
those-
resources we can use to help.
So those conversations, we have a team that does multi-level testing. So I think it's a 3-phase testing on all these different solutions. So before they're fully vetted, John Richards and his team go through like, okay, we need to test out every single part of this. Like, what color gamut are they passing through? Can this AV over IP thing that says it passes USB, is it USB 2.0, 3.0, is it USB-C? Can it do ID? All this stuff that they test out every last bit of it. And to talk a little bit about what Amelia said too, when I have questions, something that I thought I would miss, and I still do miss it because I miss the community. But when I left higher ed, I also lost access to James King's Slack channel. Any of you guys on this call that are technology managers, get on that. If you're not on that, message James and he can get you on that. But that Slack channel was a fantastic resource. The team's channels that were on for our integration team, or our engineering team, we have a very similar resource. I won't say it's identical, but I can reach out to anybody on there. And some of these people have been doing this job that I'm in. They've been doing it 20 years, and they are the expert in the company when it comes to whatever solution. And I can get in touch with any of them instantaneously. Like, I just message them on Teams. So I have a similar resource. It's not the same, but it's great to know that there's so many people. There are, I don't know how many, but I know there's hundreds upon hundreds and maybe even over 1,000 different engineering resources that I can pull from. And as I'm working on a project for anybody, that's my resource there.
We've talked a lot. Any questions we can answer about supply chain or widgets that you're interested in, or alternative products, or why do you do a certain thing a certain way? Like, that bugs me. I want the good, the bad, and the ugly. So feel free to throw stones at us. What questions?
It's virtual, so it won't hurt.
That's right. It's okay. Very good. John, anything else on supply chain?
I think that was all for supply chain. I talked through some of that stuff. Yeah, I think, that's, there's a lot more stuff to be said, but it's,
Yeah, it has changed how we do business a little bit. Just in when you're this big and you've got 50 plus offices and 50 plus warehouses across the country, it changes how you think about ordering right now. So if you have a project and you're ordering a certain widget and this widget won't be here for 8 months, Well, then I'm not going to order everything right now and then get half of it and have to store it. Right. Then you have I don't want it to get damaged while it's sitting in my warehouse. It's taking up space in my warehouse. But just a little insight, it takes a lot of money and just insurance to cover the things in our warehouse. So we are delaying how we order things because of other things that are in transit. There's a lot more project management and touching of things right now that are affecting our industry as an integration partner that weren't there before. I mean, we used to be able to just bill of materials, Troy approves it, we get the PO, we just put the order in, and then within 4 weeks, everything's on my dock. We can't do it like that anymore. We were running out of warehouse space. We were getting what happens if, there's a problem with the warehouse and we have an insurance claim on it. What does that look like? So there's a lot more touching in the AV industry right now. So we are being very strategic in how we are purchasing, what we were promising, and the deliverables that we are being given. I mean, you guys have gone through the same thing we have. We are only as good as the information we're being given. And we have dealt with many times over the course of this pandemic where the goalpost keeps getting moved on us too. So I wish it was just, hey, we messed up and we did the thing. And I want to be very clear, AVI-SPL is not perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination. We are human and we are dealing with these unprecedented times like everybody else. But at the end of the day, if you're having a problem, you can always reach out to myself. We'll get you in touch with the right person, or we can get you the answer you need. So just let us know. I'm going to move on to the next topic, unless anybody has a question about supply chain, and we can always come back to it if necessary. See, as Richard said, a perfect presentation so far. So moving on. When I was thinking about what to talk about and what could help you guys, do not feel like you need to read this. All these are linked. You can click on the articles. In fact, you may have read a lot of these, but funding as we know it is going down. We have had unprecedented money over the last 2 years and still some money to be spent from the federal Higher Education Stabilization Act, HERF funding, CARES funding, whatever flavor of it you may be. And we're now seeing the kind of shrinking, just the contracting a little bit of what that looks like. So you've got a lot of leadership in higher ed that are saying, I've spent a ton of money on classrooms. I've spent a bunch of money on this high flex, whatever that means. I'm going to now do something different with that money. I'm going to spend your normal budget cycle maybe a little bit differently. And we're seeing a little bit of contraction on students that are coming into this. So these are 3 articles from 3 areas of the country where we're seeing slight declines in enrollment. We're seeing that the University System of Georgia is actually going to cut funding, which is near and dear to our hearts because John and I are here, so we're a little more aware of it, but they are looking at budget cuts over the next year. So what is something you guys can do to help supplement your current budget cycles? And this is where we get a little creative. Grants.gov is the federal mechanism where they post every grant that comes out across the country. This is the really uneloquent screen that you get when you go to grants.gov, but essentially—
And it's not just private sector. Not just public sector, it's private too.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things in here. So you can literally kind of flavor of the week, click on what grants you could be eligible for or what could be. So, if you're a private university, there's a private, one, there's public, there's, all kinds of different areas where grants are available to you guys. And I just highlighted 4, but one thing that kind of came to mind yesterday, it was one of the sessions, but this is where you can click your eligibility. So this takes you directly to grants.gov, so you guys can do that at a later time. But here are 4 examples that I pulled that are relevant to higher education for different, things: educational, technology, media, and materials for disabilities programs, right? You can play that into all kinds of things. There was a HETMA conversation just the other day on the forum about Listen and the Mobile Connect with Sennheiser. Those are the kinds of technologies that could absolutely be used for this kind of grant. Many grants just get rubber stamped and approved. Yep, that's fine. The Rusty LT grant, I had mentioned that recently on the HETMA board too. $120 million was available to any institution. I think Jay Seaman from NEAT actually made a comment to me recently He said, there's so much money that we could put a neat board on every stop sign in Alabama and you'd still have millions and millions and millions of dollars left over. So that's one example. Now that grant window has closed, right? But it comes back up every year. The thing I heard about the Russ grant, just fun little side note, it's about $60 million. It really was doubled to $120 million. And they had a third of the staff to go through them. So they are literally just rubber stamping those things is what the word on the street was. So a great example of something you guys could look at for the future tribal colleges and universities. There are grants for HBCUs. And I think Dwayne from Old Dominion was talking about how he was using grants to supplement student worker population for extra student support for classrooms and learning environments. So just a few examples that you guys can go poke around on and look. And one relationship that we have a very close bond with is Learn, Design, Apply. We work with the Poly HP teams, and Learn, Design, Apply is a resource that I talk to every month. We have a monthly cadence, and we talk about upcoming grants and things that could be available to help supplement higher education. So, I'll talk about the Russ DLT grants with our, with the Oklahoma offices and our Kansas offices, or it could even be, a Chicago, but you service something that's outside of the metro area that is distance, that counts, right? And you have to have each in to make the thing work. So
one other thing on grants that I hadn't thought of. So if you don't know how to write a grant, I don't, and I never did, and I should have used this when I was at the university. But a lot of schools have people on staff who their job or part of their job is to write grants. So if you find that person and take them out for a cup of coffee and talk to them about it, they might even help you write the grant.
Well, one other thing too, the Learn, Design, Apply group will literally write the grant for you. You submit it, they write it, you put your John Hancock on it, they do 90% of the lift because it's scary, it's different, and I don't have time for that. You can't afford to not be looking at grants. So if I can help you connect with Learn, Design, Apply or some of the other organizations, NEAT has another one that we use too. It does not mean you have to use just NEAT products or Poly HP products. It is all encompassing products. So they would love for you to, of course, but it does not mean it has to be the manufacturer that introduced you to the grant writing process. So I am not an expert in grants either. It's something I've learned a lot about in the last year and a half since I've been with AVI-SPL. But I'll just kind of open it up. Does anybody have questions about grants or how we can help you with that?
Yeah, how can you help me with that? I want to do that.
Yep. So just shoot me an email. I'll get you in touch with Learn, Design, Apply. We'll have a joint meeting and we'll see what's out there or what they know. They'll know things that I don't know. They'll go, oh yeah, there's this grant coming up, Joe, and this would work for USC. This could work because you have satellite campuses or you have, disenfranchised, people. I mean, when I was at Georgia State, there was lots of grants that came through because they serviced a first time, never been to college before, minorities, foreign exchange, so they had lots of extra grant money kind of flowing through there because of the institution, and they were an R1 research institution also. So just email me, hit me up on the HETMA board, and we'll get you guys in touch and see what's coming up. Even if you don't know about it now, you could know about it in 12 months and it's coming.
Yeah, I love it.
So those resources are there. You guys can click on that later. Last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is something that is, I like to see classroom metrics. What does faculty love? They love teaching their course content. And what do they love the second most beyond that? They love data. And that feeds into the people who are running the departments and who are eventually running the universities. They still love data. So I'm not talking about data and lore from Star Trek. They love to see the metrics of classrooms. And
We like him too.
we like them too, right? Not lore, he's bad.
Prince Veneer is
But-
awesome.
That's right, Prince Finer. Metrics in class, you threw me off and I love it. So I'm seeing a mixed bag with this, right? The bigger institutions, the large D1 schools, the big logos that you hear are doing this more. What I'm not seeing as much is the HBCUs, the two-year technical colleges, the metropolitan states, those like third-tier community colleges are not getting metrics on classrooms. So what does that mean for you? When you go to do a refresh, when you go to justify, what you're doing and how much money you need, well, I need to know why. Classroom metrics. So one way to do this is the way we've always done it, right? I have a classroom that was installed 8 years ago. It's the oldest one. I'm going to do it. That's the one I'm going to do. That's not good enough anymore. We need to figure out, especially with supply chain, what rooms that may have a 2 series processor are rolling. And I don't have any problems out of those classrooms, but I've got a specific problem where, we're seeing this thing and we just are constantly going back to this one building. And what does that look like? So shameless plug. This one way that we can help alleviate that, especially with a mixed environment, is Symphony. Symphony is an AVI-SPL software that can be deployed with and interacts with anything with an IP address. So imagine a single pane of glass that interacts with your Crestron, your QSC, your AMX, your Extron, your BiAmp controllers, all in one place. With you guys having to purchase different kinds of technologies, we can't just say, well, I've always used Fusion, or I've always used CloudXIO, and that's just what I do. We're seeing a much more fragmented methodology to technology integration. So, a single pane of glass can be great for your help desk. They see certain things. Your AV engineering team sees different kinds of metrics, can see heat registration, anything that can be sent to and fro can be seen through our platform. Not perfect. It continues to evolve every year. In the last year and a half I've been here, I've been really impressed with the gains it has grown and what it can do over the last couple of years. But you've got to have metrics in classrooms. How do you know that this room is a problem? Well, we keep seeing that at midnight, these rooms keep going down in this certain wing. And this happened. We have a customer that uses Symphony, and they were having certain problems with certain rooms. And when they started looking at the room inventory of all these rooms, they discovered it was a certain segment of installation from a certain manufacturer. And what they discovered is the power packs were bad up by the projectors. So the receivers were having problems, and they were able to justify, we need to have an immediate expenditure to purchase power supplies versus replacing all rooms or continuing to go back and forth to rooms. Because quite frankly, you guys do not have the time or resourcing to go to rooms constantly over and over. When you install a room, you need to not hopefully have to touch it for 5 to 7 years. And that means anything, beyond the instructor who wants a VCR still. Can't do anything about that.
So on the same note, I was in a session earlier this week, the higher ed AV management session, subtitled whatever Mike said. And there was a conversation about a consolidated dashboard. And it just made me think back to my days when I first started at my university, where we had Global Viewer Enterprise. We had just rolled it out, and it was monitoring all the Extron rooms, and we had 123 rooms in there, and it was fantastic. But then we started switching slowly to Crestron, and then I was looking at Fusion, and I was looking at GVE, and I was kind of switching between them, and my metrics were a little bit skewed. I had used those metrics at GVE to justify something I never want to say out loud, that we got rid of VGA and VCR, but we use those metrics to show no one's switching over to those inputs, or the button got pressed only during the week that we were doing our testing to make sure that they were still working. So we justified them with that. But then as we switched over to Fusion, again, we had the same weirdness of 2 different systems. And then we were all on Fusion. That's fine. But if you want to roll out a classroom that isn't Crestron and just have the one, how do you monitor that one? Or how do you monitor if you have 5 different standards as you're having to figure out the supply chain thing? And something else Fusion can do, something else Symphony can do that I don't know, Kevin, if you know this, but Symphony can do some really cool stuff, including what they call room checks. So they can actually start up a room on a schedule, say, start up your provost conference room at 6 a.m. every day, test it out thoroughly, even check the mics by using the speakers in the room, and say it's good or not. And, if it's not, it can integrate with your ticketing system like ServiceNow, throw a ticket in there, set it at critical. And your people, when they check it, they're like, oh, I got to get in there before that meeting at 9 o'clock. Okay, cool. And it
Yeah,
does all that for you.
Yeah, it does it auto magically, right? We always talk about I talk about auto magic all the time, but somebody said this earlier and I forgot to write down their name, but somebody was telling the story yesterday of they use a turn down service of AV, and they had a army of student assistants that work a third shift to do a turn down service.
That was Will talking about.
Was
USC.
it Will? Okay, you
Yeah.
know, it must have been Will too. They have a turn down service. What if you could automate that through a system that could preemptively tell you that to stop the touching? Let's be honest, the majority of universities are having a major crisis when it comes to hiring the $30,000 a year employee to run around and turn a room on and turn a room off and check mark on some Excel document. Yep, I did that room. Are they? Or are they just walking around to the rooms and saying, yeah, I'm gonna watch TikTok for an hour and I'm gonna say I did this floor, right? There's really no way to know they turned the room on, they checked it, or that they checked the right way. You've got really good workers and you got some that are just, I don't have a lot of buy-in.
I always had that with my beginning of the semester checks, where we're going through every classroom. And I know that if these certain people checked it, it was going to be fantastic and we wouldn't have an issue. But if these 1 or 2 people checked it, I might go along behind them.
Yeah.
So
we're having a hiring crisis. And we have got to find ways to
yeah.
automate these systems. And this is one way. You still need
Yeah.
student assistance. This is not taking anyone's job away. But what it enables you to do is save 5 minutes here times 100 times 1,000 times a year. And by the time you get to a year, that 5 minutes every time you didn't have to do a thing, you guys have built 10 more classrooms. You guys were able to help.
Touch on, you got remote campuses. So I know with University of North Georgia, we had 5 campuses and we had AV teams on 2 of them. At Georgia State, you guys had 9 campuses?
Yeah, we had six campuses and we had 900 classrooms.
Okay. So getting people in these larger scale, or even if it's just one person and they're managing 50 classrooms, that's a lot for one person to run around, or maybe 1 FTE and 1 student worker. So this right here can help with that process of checking the rooms, and then you only have to go touch the rooms that are throwing red flags.
So we are not the symphony experts, and I'm not trying to hawk it, but I literally see a fantastic opportunity for it to help higher ed when you guys are teams of 1 or 2 or even 20. Well, if you're still a team of 20, you're getting asked to do 20 times the things that the guy that has a team of 2 is doing. So this can help. It could be a process to make it help. I'm in discussions with our Symphony people about what Symphony looks like for higher education. We're in negotiations on what that looks like. I'm real excited to tell you guys that there's some stuff coming down the pipeline that you guys are going to be really excited about. So if you're not getting metrics in classrooms, you should be. And if you're not, please let us help with that process. And if you would like to see a demo of what Symphony could do for you, I have the best person in the organization who I love. Her name is Lori. She's a hoot. She would love to get on a call with you guys and just give you the quick down and dirty of what it can do for you.
Symphony is awesome, by the way, and it should go through the HETMA approved program.
Joe,
Yeah.
I'm on that actually. So I'm glad you said that, because I had that exact same conversation, and I told her that there's a process. I got some news coming to myself, but it won't be announced today. And
Yeah,
how do I-
I'm definitely interested in a demo of that.
Yep, we can do that for you guys. So whether you're live in the room now or you're watching this recording back, you can get with me or John or Jen Haskins, and we can get you in touch with the right person. But I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on the HETMA page. I'm on there all the time.
Hey, throw back up the
I'm
PowerPoint that had our email.
I took it away. Sorry,
Took it away.
I took it away.
It's our first name dot last name at AVI-SPL.com.
Yes,
But, I mean,
Shornhorst.
Kevin is like the award winner for the most active corporate partner on the HETMA community. So, really, you can't escape it.
No, you can't escape me. I'm around. I'm definitely around. So with that, I will open the floor to any questions, comments, concerns. Again, I want you guys to throw rocks at me. If there's anything that we could do differently, we are not perfect. We always are trying to get better. What can we do to help you?
Well, that comes in understanding you're an integrator. So we knew that much.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I had to, that was a softball. I had to go there.
Come
That's
on,
right.
Joe. You know that nobody's perfect.
Joe, we sell boxes too, so that's really hard to mess up.
Oh, you know what? Let's talk about that for 30 seconds.
There's
We
that other
have a
softball.
fantastic 30. Yeah, we've got a fantastic box sale team. That is how my relationship grew with AVI-SPL, my inside
Mine
sales
too.
rep. And we have the same one, actually. Her name is Jessica. But our box sale team is amazing. They all are based out of Tampa for the most part. They are an amazing team that does lunch and learns every Wednesday. They're entrenched with all the manufacturers. They do lunch and learns every week. They work with me. I'm kind of their de facto AV engineer, so I kind of get to help them. But if you just need to purchase a thing or a widget, that is the team for you. And I've got a full cutout of the United States on who covers what territories. I can send that out to you guys. They are fantastic. They turn quotes around, sometimes within hours, sometimes within a day.
Sometimes
but
within
that's
minutes.
a great resource. Yeah. And I have
There's been
not
times.
been watching the chat. So if anybody has a question, I need to read through those. Shameless plug. Good job, Jen. Thank you.
Yeah, the box sales was how I was introduced to AVI as well. And there were some definitely, so like many university tech managers, I've tried multiple integrators, and sometimes they do a fantastic job. Sometimes they get to sit in timeout for a little bit because they haven't. And I've had that relationship with a lot of different integrators, but AVI, the box sales have been consistently, like, I would need a quote for something. I would call or email my rep and I'd get it within like an hour or two. And that's not their like what they're told to do. Like, I think it's like within 24 hours, depending on the contract that they're
That's the goal.
abiding by.
That's the goal.
But yeah, 24 hours. But sometimes like she would get it to me within an hour. Like that's crazy fast.
Yeah.
So
And the more you guys standardize and work with us, the faster those processes go, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time. I would send a singular spreadsheet and it was set up a very similar way. And she could blow through a quote in minutes, and be like, oh yeah, that's, recreate it and off it went. So,
and now I know how she did it on the back
that
end.
save you money. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of times you were saying that you get reached out to a lot by the inside sales team. They contact me sometimes, especially Jessica, because I know her from previous relationship, like with being my rep. But she may get a question about how to do something, and she's not an engineer. But she'll reach out to us engineers, and we'll get her an answer back. So they have the resource pool of the whole organization's engineer pool at their fingertips if they need us. So we can definitely help with that.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, this was great. So I have to jump really quick to get ready for the other thing, but this was
Happy hour.
Thanks,
Happy hour
Joe.
coming up.
Yep, happy hour coming up. So if nobody has anything, please feel free to jump back in. We'll be back for the happy hour to hang out. I'm gonna go get a couple frothy beverages myself. But thank you all so much. We appreciate everything. We would not be here if it wasn't for you. 85% of what SLED is for me is higher education. So it is very near and dear to my heart. So whatever we can do to help, we want to be a partner with you. We don't want to be a conflicting force. So we are here to help.
Yeah.
And with
Thanks,
that,
everyone.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Great job, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.